Thank you very much and welcome all to our final session. I have to apologize. My French is, say, très mal. It's bad. It's not very good. So we'll do some of this in English. But before we start, I'd like to invite Monsieur Aimé from ANSER to give us some opening remarks about rural development, what it means here, how ANSER is thinking about it, and to set the scene a little bit before we go into our conversation. And just to update you, the conversation will be a little bit of case studies from what we are learning as GAP, also what we are learning with our partners in India, a little bit of what is happening in DRC, and then we'll open it up for an open discussion about what we really want to see happen with rural development in DRC. Monsieur Aimé, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour tout le monde. Voilà, je vais essayer un peu de circonscrire mon intervention sur l'approche globale, parce que depuis qu'on a commencé, on n'a pas essayé un peu d'expliquer d'une façon globale comment mettre en place tous ces projets d'électrification au niveau de la RDC. Et nous, en tant qu'ANSER, je commence d'abord par me présenter. Je suis M. Aimé Youmairadi, je suis le directeur des projets de ANSER. Alors, pour commencer, il faut que l'auditoire puisse comprendre d'abord la motivation première du gouvernement congolais pour mettre en place ANSER. Et là, il faut comprendre le faible taux d'accès à l'électricité qui a motivé la République, le gouvernement, à mettre en place ANSER. Et pour quel but? C'est pour essayer un peu de promouvoir le service énergétique et aussi améliorer les conditions de vie des populations vivant dans le milieu rural et périurbain. Et aussi, un élément important, c'est aussi lutter contre l'exode rural. Parce que nous savons que l'électricité est un moteur de développement, mais l'électricité doit se baser sur la demande existante, qui est la demande de la population, et notre offre, normalement, doit répondre à ces besoins. Et c'est pourquoi le gouvernement a préféré qu'ANSER puisse jouer ce rôle, mais vous savez que c'est vraiment ambitieux. ANSER seul ne peut pas améliorer les conditions de vie de la population et seul ne peut pas être à mesure de lutter contre l'exode rural, et raison pour laquelle l'approche partenariat pour résoudre ces problèmes s'avère très capitale. Et c'est là où vous allez comprendre que ANSER jusque-là, dans son modèle de financement, il reçoit le fonds du gouvernement congolais pour financer à 100%, disons au CAPEX, les infrastructures qu'il met en place, mais aussi nous avons 23 missions et parmi ces 23 missions, on a recommandé à ce que nous puissions aussi nouer des partenariats avec les autres partenaires financiers afin d'accompagner ces communautés qui sont dans le milieu rural et qui souffrent depuis des années sans l'électricité. Hormis ces deux sources de financement, nous sommes en train de mettre en place aussi une façon de travailler avec les ETD. Je crois que l'honorable a évoqué ce problème ici. Les entités territoriales décentralisées qui reçoivent plus ceux qui sont dans le secteur minier, il y a une partie des responsabilités sociétales qui revient à ces entreprises pour appuyer les communautés riveraines qui sont tout autour des mines. Et là aussi, c'est une opportunité pour ANSER de voir dans quelle mesure il peut collaborer avec ces ETD pour mettre en place des projets d'électrification afin de booster l'économie locale. Vous n'êtes pas sans ignorer le gouvernement congolais jusque-là par rapport à l'importation des produits agroalimentaires. Le gouvernement dépasse à peu près 2 milliards de dollars pour importer les produits agroalimentaires. Or, l'électricité que nous avons peut permettre à ce que dans tous ces ETD que nous avons au niveau de la République, avec les redevances peut-être qu'ils reçoivent ou le frais de responsabilité sociétale, à pouvoir développer des activités économiques, transformer localement, développer des chaînes de valeur. Et cela va permettre à ce que la RDC aussi puisse se positionner par rapport à tous ces regroupements régionaux dans lesquels nous avons adhéré, parce que jusque-là, on n'exporte presque rien, mais nous espérons qu'avec les courants, il y a moyen aussi d'accroître notre production au niveau local. Parce que l'approche que veut développer Anser, c'est de sorte que là où nous allons installer nos centrales hydro ou solaires, que la production qu'on puisse produire localement, transformer tout localement et acheminer vers les grands centres de consommation des produits finis. Et moi, je pense à ce moment-là, il y a moyen de voir dans quelle mesure nous pouvons assurer un développement endogène avec des communautés qui existent, mais aussi promouvoir quelques entreprises ou coopératives qui veulent développer localement leurs produits. Donc ici, en serre, je pense que nous pouvons situer à deux niveaux le cœur du marché. Parce qu'en serre travaille normalement avec des entreprises privées et le cœur du marché pour nous, ce sont ces entreprises privées qui doivent gérer par délégation le central que nous mettons à leur disposition. Et à leur tour, ils ont l'obligation de nous présenter le business plan, donc le plan d'affaires, pour montrer à l'ANSER de quelle manière aussi ils comptent satisfaire aussi aux besoins de cette communauté. Et moi, je crois que c'est à ce niveau que nous avons l'obligation de créer des richesses parce qu'il y a des potentialités énormes là où ANSER s'installe et on a besoin de transformer ces potentiels en richesses. Et c'est avec l'électricité que cela est possible aujourd'hui. Parce que l'électricité, je compare comme un moteur dans un véhicule. Parce que s'il n'y a pas de moteur, vous n'avez que l'épave. Mais une fois que vous mettez le moteur, vous placez le moteur, vous pouvez vous déplacer partout où vous voulez. Et c'est ça, l'élan que l'électricité peut amener dans notre pays. Nous avons tant de potentialités et comment parvenir à répondre à ces demandes. Nous avons un programme de diagnostic participatif pour l'instant pour essayer de comprendre un peu le contexte de chaque milieu et voir dans quelle mesure nous pouvons orienter même des entreprises qui veulent développer dans le secteur énergétique et même dans le secteur de développement de chaînes de valeur, qu'ils puissent avoir des données fiables. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, bien sûr, nous avons des données au niveau de la RDC, mais ce sont des données plus globalisantes, mais ça n'entre pas réellement dans le besoin de sites où nous intervenons, parce que nous avons 145 territoires, et il faut compter des secteurs, nous en avons aussi nombreux, et sans compter le groupement et des villages que nous avons. Alors, là où ANSER s'installe, nous voulons qu'il y ait des études socio-économiques assez poussées pour essayer un peu de mettre à disposition des entreprises même qui vont gérer l'électricité, d'avoir des éléments pour leur permettre de faire des calculs de rentabilité par rapport à leur projet et voir comment est-ce qu'ils peuvent revenir dans leur investissement. Mais comme nous finançons au CAPEX à 100%, je crois que les entreprises ont juste intérêt d'exploiter les centrales que nous allons mettre à leur disposition et aussi suivant la délégation des services que nous avons mis en place, soit par affermage ou régie intéressée. Alors, partant de tout ce que nous voulons mettre en place, c'est pour essayer un peu de comprendre la demande qui est au niveau de milieux ruraux. Nous savons que les défis sont énormes, les revenus sont trop bas. Nous avons la complexité des routes qui ne sont pas du tout praticables et nous avons la rareté exactement des institutions financières au niveau des villages. Or, nous voulons travailler avec des entreprises privées, mais comment ces entreprises vont assurer les transactions monétaires et ce sont des réflexions que nous avons mises en place. Et pour répondre à cela, nous avons noué des relations et nous sommes pour parler avec IFOD, qui est une institution de microcrédit, parce que c'est une institution de l'Église catholique qui est déployée presque partout à travers la République et nous pensons partout où il y a des paroisses, ils peuvent s'installer pour assurer ces transactions monétaires avec les entreprises qui souhaiteraient aller exploiter dans le milieu rural. En même temps, pour accroître les revenus de la population, nous avons de pourparlers aussi avec FAO qui est déjà d'accord de nous accompagner. FAO veut aussi nous accompagner pour financer aussi les études socio-économiques, les études de diagnostic participatif, et cela pour bien comprendre le problème dans chaque milieu et aussi voir dans quelle mesure ils peuvent développer des chaînes de valeur jusqu'à la commercialisation. Et pour l'instant, FAO est présent dans 2 provinces, et c'est là où nous allons commencer ces projets pilotes, c'est dans le Kasaï et le Kasaï central. Et là, je pense, nous allons tenter cette expérience, je pense, le mois prochain, et c'est pourquoi nous avons besoin de l'appui de tout le monde pour assurer à ce que le projet d'électrification soit bénéfique à la population, parce qu'on ne met pas en place ces projets d'électrification pour un serre ou pour soi-même, mais tous ces projets sont mis en place pour satisfaire un besoin et pour satisfaire une demande de la population. Et voilà, avec des expériences que nous avons étudiées au niveau de l'Afrique, nous avons constaté que c'est avec pompe qu'on installe des projets d'électrification, surtout les solaires. Et nous ne voulons pas ici, avec l'eau des décès que nous avons l'obligation de rapporter, qu'on avance avec l'électrification. On a parlé ici du nombre de ménages connectés, mais il faut savoir aussi qu'il y a des usages productifs que nous devons mettre en place pour essayer pour permettre aux exploitants de faire des bénéfices. Mais le grand problème, c'est qu'on peut avoir un taux d'accès aujourd'hui, mais 5 ans, 10 ans après, nous revenons encore à la case de départ, et ce n'est pas de cette manière que nous sommes en train de voir cette approche globale que nous voulons mettre en place. Il faut que les centrales qui seront mises en place, l'électrification qui sera mise en place, puisse aller de progrès en progrès. Mais il ne faut pas que nous puissions faire des cadeaux empoisonnés, parce que sinon, nous risquons un jour de communiquer un taux qui sera peut-être au rabais 2 ans ou 3 ans après, et cela ne sera pas bénéfique pour ces programmes que nous sommes en train de mettre en place. Et c'est pourquoi il est plus mieux pour nous de réfléchir en amont et de voir dans quelle mesure nous pouvons assurer la pérennisation et la viabilité de ces projets avec des études sérieuses et des études socio-économiques qui puissent nous aider à assurer la pérennisation de tous ces projets. Voilà un peu ce que je voulais intervenir en peu de mots. C'est pour essayer un peu de comprendre comment nous comptons intervenir. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just to play back a little bit there before we get into this discussion, I think we've heard a lot about the need for partnerships, the need to not build this alone, but understanding that they are going to need partners. He's talked about some of the examples, real tangible examples of ways that economic development can come to rural areas, specifically around the idea of food and local processing, and then the challenges that are there, including data, but many other challenges that I think we'll explore with the panel. So thank you so much for those opening remarks. Now, I have a really great cast on my panel list. We have representatives from the energy supply side, the private sector. We have my GAP colleagues, and all the way from maybe the person who's come furthest to this convening from Bangalore in India, one of our partners, so we can learn lessons, south to south lessons about how to make rural development work, and then, of course, some local players as well, like Kipe. So to begin with, we just want to open up with a little bit of framing. Some of the things that we have tried at GIAP in other regions, some of the things that have been tried in India, then we'll bring the context local and hear from our 2 companies on the stage. So, Shianda, if you don't mind, if you could please put the presentation on, and I'll ask you to keep it a bit short so we have a lot of room for discussion.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. My name is Shianda, and I work with GIAP within the Demand Jobs and Livelihoods team based out of Nairobi. So as the title of the team that I work in represents, for us, jobs and livelihoods are the pillar that we focus on, and so demand is a means to creating those jobs and livelihoods that can sustain economies while boosting energy access development. And so this is not only in low energy access context, but also in energy transition economies. So, but for today's discussion, we'll focus on the energy access context, so specifically productive use. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. Great. Sorry for that technical hitch. As you can see, electrification access is what we've been talking about throughout this discussion over the last 2 days, and the opportunity is large. So there's no need to belabor this point, but there's so many areas that we could be working in. But what we do know is that energy supply alone is not enough for economic development to take place. And there's a lot of evidence, even from my home country of Kenya, where supply has grown tremendously over the past 10 years, but demand by less than 20%. So it's quite obvious that there's a lot that needs to be done with energy supply that can drive economic development, especially at the last mile. And so that's what you can see at the bottom, is that you need funding to go into supply, into creating demand through flexible funds that over time can create an environment for private sector return-seeking investments to thrive. And so this is just an example. This just shows how the correlation between energy access, poverty, and development. And so some of the statistics are not new to anybody here, but just to put everything within the context that without that concerted effort on economic development alongside energy access, we'll not be able to see the growth in economic development alongside specific criteria. And so what does that mean for the DRC context, or any context in Africa specifically, when it comes to last mile economic development, which really touches towards the communities, millions of inhabitants that are employed in various sectors. And so some studies that have been done within GIAP with our anchor partners, the Rockefeller Foundation, show that there's a massive opportunity for jobs across many sectors, but the ones that are most relevant include agriculture, small and micro enterprises, and some service industries such as mobility, where if we energize them, there's a huge potential to create not only new jobs but enhance livelihoods that depend on some of these activities. And so we'll give a couple of case studies from different contexts and geographies. And so these are the three main ones. So mini grids, which we've been speaking quite a lot about this over the past 2 days, rooftop solutions, as well as standalone solutions. The first example is from Nigeria, where GIAP has a country program that has been operational since 2021, and it focuses on many different pillars, but the productive use and demand stimulation was one that we began to explore early on, and we began working with the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria, the ANSEA equivalent in Nigeria, and the Rocky Mountain Institute, to develop and de-risk business models for productive use and demand stimulation in existing mini-grid sites, but build a pathway or a roadmap for successful implementation across many more sites. So when we began, Nigeria had around 60 sites. Today it's over 100, and many more are coming online each and every month. But how do the question was, how can we ensure that we have sustainable business models that hinge on productive use in a way that is sustainable, that can bring in local financing for not only the productive use players, but also end users that are adopting these technologies. And so with the partnership that we have with the aforementioned partners, we've been trialing different business models in 20 sites, in 20 existing mini-grid sites in Nigeria. So within the ecosystem of partnerships, what we are doing is we're bringing in the energy players, the agriculture players, and the finance players to build business models around different value chains. So this include rice, fisheries, grains, and you can see some of this in the examples of the partners that we're working with. And this is to build an ecosystem that brings each and every piece that's needed to make a certain activity thrive that is energy enabled, because it's not enough just to bring in these appliances and just hand them to end users, but you need to think about the financing, the market access, the maintenance of this machines, repayment model. So this is what we're trying to do in Nigeria, that within existing mini-grid sites, but to build a pathway for many more sites to adopt such models. And this is not in isolation, because we've also been engaging with the World Bank, who are bringing in a new program, and some of the ideas that have been tested here will be incorporated into that. And that is what we want at the end of the day, is that they are incorporated into public funding vehicles that can do this at scale. And then another example is what we have in Nigeria, where we are doing a different model, whereby we are thinking about how, if we are to start with the demand in mind, in the communities that are mostly likely to be electrified through new efforts, how can we use the anchor demand in those communities to drive the development of these mini-grid sites, by starting with that as the point that is bringing the mini-grids to those locations. And so that's what we're doing in Nigeria. Again, you'll see that we're working with the Ministry of Water and Energy, the Ministry of Irrigation, as well as the Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Institute. And so you see, bringing in the energy and agriculture partners at a public level, but also at the private sector level, where we're working with private mini-grid developers to scale up the development of these sites, but focusing on irrigation as an anchor load to show where these mini-grids need to be, but also develop a business case for further electrification of sites through irrigation as an anchor load, as well as other productive uses. And in India, we have, Prashant will talk more about this from a Selco perspective, but from a GIA perspective, prior to GIA being formed, the Rockefeller Foundation had a subsidiary in India. It was called Smart Power India, that worked a lot with mini-grid developers, facilitating the process to develop, but also on demand stimulation. And so this will continue to be done within the Indian context. But they've developed what they have developed over the years is very similar to what we are carrying out in Africa, which is that ecosystem approach of bringing different partners together to de-risk business models that can be scaled through increased private finance. I'll stop there.
Thanks so much, Shianda. I think what I want to call out here is examples of where we have had countries start from where we are starting in DRC, with really thinking about the electrification plan, but also thinking about how do you put that together with using energy for productive benefit in terms of either agriculture or any other activities, productive use activities as we're calling them, and how we can support both the private sector and the public sector to think about those things, bring them together, and make sure they're developing at the same time. And then I want to just move to you, Prashant. Maybe if you can give us the examples of India and what kind of approaches you're taking there, and then we'll run back and trying to localize them.
No, thank you, McKenna. Thank you, everyone here who has put up this event and for hosting me. I'm from Selco Foundation, which is a not-for-profit based out of India, but it has its roots as an energy developer, if I may call, which is a clean energy enterprise, Selco Solar Light Private Limited, which started in 1995. Similar challenges, right? I mean, I'm not talking about 95, but right from independence, when India got independence, no access to, access to services in general, right? Electricity is just one of the fundamental right which we should look as a country, as stakeholders, reaching to last mile, not just, yes, we can start from areas which are easily doable, but again, we'll have to have those hard questions and we have to reach out to the last mile. Just like health, education, we also see energy, access, as a fundamental right. So one of the central themes which Selco Foundation works on is basically looking at inequality of access, and then looking at, when we talk about that and when we look at our work, generally two questions emerges in that. One is around how do we bridge these gaps, keeping the planetary boundaries in mind, and then also the second one is what are the barriers which are kind of hindering, or what are the barriers just which are coming up way to help us bridge that inequality to access. Again, when I say access, we are talking about energy access, but energy is, as sir was mentioning, energy is used for education, for livelihoods, for health, for general well-being. People might just need energy at home because for lights, fans, whatever, right? For every product and services which we have, it works in a system, and in a system is what defines how we access those products and services, and it is kind of also incentivizing. I mean, the system should have an incentive to provide that service and product. Again, all these services and product which we talked about. So when we look at this from the lens of communities which are marginalized, underserved, I mean, India also, when we were working, there are still a lot of places which are very remote. Yes, it's a different ecosystem. What we had was great institutions which we built, right from Rural Development Bank, regional rural banks, which is financing, which looks at both financing for enterprises, but also financing for end users to avail those services. Right from that to training institute, which very much focuses on what is the contextualized need for that area. So understanding that demand and need becomes very critical. What it means is, in a certain area, I might be growing rice. In certain area, it might be just cattle and dairy and then meat. So how do we kind of look at those different industries and then create know-how from the technical point of view to understand what are the gaps of energy and technology in that. And again, understanding the gap of energy and technology, if livelihoods is in context, looking at from how we can reduce drudgery for community members, how we can increase productivity, how we can make sure that the value addition is there. So looking more from that perspective, so that it takes a development angle, but the private sector coming and understanding, because R&D is required. And it's not like very in-depth R&D, what kind of solutions and technologies will work there. So until now, very short, and we can delve in that later. I mean, we have a series of 175 livelihood solutions, which are solar-powered livelihood solutions, right from in different value chains of agri, millets, rice, tomato, potato, everything. And then also allied sector, which are poultry, dairy, and solutions on that. Right from that to also service and retail sector, like just motor mechanic shops and photocopying or printing shops and so on. So that has been done and we have deployed more than 22,000 such livelihood solutions, which are standalone livelihood solutions. And when we say we, it's not just Selco. Selco comes as an ecosystem builder, because what I was saying, what are the barriers? Who are the right stakeholders? What are their incentives? And looking at that everything together, not from access and demand separately. It's not or, but and then how we can kind of look at that. And yeah, I mean, and why we are here today, and we are also we have been doing this since last over 30 years. We also realize that because we have had similar journeys, the learning should go beyond just the boundaries of countries. So we have a global program, Global SG7 Hubs program, where we share South-South collaboration, learning as much as possible, co-develop and co-design programs, implement programs together, building capacities of local institutions, NGOs, financial institutions, government partners. Yeah, I mean, that is the background, and we can check.
Thank you so much, Prashant. I think what really stands out to me is about understanding the needs of the rural end user and making sure we're catering to that need, forming strong institutions to deliver, be they financial institutions or agricultural institutions, whatever is needed to deliver for that end user need. And then the fact that we might have to do some more investigating, more learning, more research and development in terms of what are the technical solutions that can work in the rural areas. and then build an ecosystem, because one player cannot do everything. We have to work together to build an entire ecosystem to make sure that rural development is happening. And so great to hear about the potential here to learn from regions and institutions who've been doing this for many, many years. So I just want to bring us back to DRC now. And Yal, maybe you can share with us about WIST and what work you have been doing, especially that is associated with rural development, and maybe reflect a little bit on what are the challenges that you're facing in that work.
Ok, thank you for the invitation on stage. Je vais peut-être parler en français, c'est plus facile pour tout le monde. Et comme ça, je vais peut-être répéter des choses qui ont été dites en anglais que peut-être pas tout le monde a compris. Donc on est WIST Énergie Solaire et Eau, on est un bureau d'études et de réalisation présent ici depuis 12 ans, spécialement impliqué dans les milieux ruraux et milieux périurbains. Je vais parler de notre vision, sans donner trop de détails sur nos stratégies, notre vision de développement de l'électricité ici en RDC. On ne peut pas aller dans les milieux ruraux actuels, tels que vous le savez tous, avec les pouvoirs d'achat, les pouvoirs de remboursement actuels des populations. On ne peut pas aller dans les milieux ruraux en leur demandant de venir nous payer le kilowattheure. Ils ont besoin d'avoir des sources de revenus pour pouvoir nous payer ces kilowattheures. Et donc on en revient toujours à la même sémantique qu'on entend aujourd'hui beaucoup, c'est-à-dire le productive use. Le productive use, ça veut dire beaucoup, c'est l'utilité de l'électricité. Ici, on est peut-être tous des spécialistes de l'électricité, on sait ce que ça veut dire un kilowattheure. La plupart des gens ne savent pas ce que c'est un kilowattheure. Les gens savent ce que c'est allumer la lumière, allumer la télévision, utiliser son frigo, faire tourner son moulin, faire tourner, quel que soit son moteur, pour faire tourner son petit business, son ordinateur, son café internet, etc. Il faut penser, quand on va dans les milieux ruraux, il faut penser absolument d'apporter des solutions pour que ces personnes des milieux ruraux puissent se développer, augmenter leurs revenus. C'est-à-dire, il faut arrêter de parler de tarif du kilowattheure, mais il faudrait plutôt parler d'un tarif, d'un service rendu à la population. Un tarif, on pourrait très bien mesurer cet impact en kilogrammes de farine de maïs, farine de manioc produite. On pourrait très bien faire des tarifs basés sur la quantité d'eau vendue, etc. Il faudrait peut-être plus changer la mentalité de comment est-ce qu'on approche ces milieux ruraux. Alors, il y a des choses qui manquent. D'abord, il faut savoir que nous, le secteur privé, on n'est pas des politiciens. On n'est pas du tout tenu à l'agenda politique, et que des belles promesses, des belles paroles, si c'est pas concret, c'est pas sérieux, on va pas s'engager dedans. Et donc on a besoin vraiment de plusieurs acteurs. Et une chose aussi qui manque aussi, surtout ici, c'est les banques. Où sont les banques dans la salle? Où sont les banques mes banques à moi avec qui je travaille? Où elles ne sont pas là. Si on va dans les milieux ruraux et qu'on n'a pas de méthode de financer des télévisions, des frigos, des moulins, etc., comment est-ce que ces gens vont pouvoir se développer? Donc il faudrait soit que les subsides prennent une composante du productive use à sa charge, et ça j'invite vraiment beaucoup les bailleurs de fonds, Anser, C4All, BGFA, à vraiment repenser ce genre de choses, à intégrer les productive use et d'une manière aussi, nous opérateurs du secteur privé, on ne peut pas espérer que l'opérateur de l'utilisation productive a un bon business plan, un bon business model. Donc l'électricité c'est un milieu, on doit y aller ensemble. Alors on a le ministère de l'énergie, hier on avait le ministère du développement rural, c'était très bien. Dommage que, et j'ai déjà parlé de ça avec Anser, il faudrait peut-être aussi faire une sorte de plateforme de guichet de demande de services énergétiques en quelque sorte. Parce qu'il faut casser ce cercle vicieux. On a un énorme potentiel, ça c'est le mot qui revient tout le temps, potentiel. Mais il faut casser le cercle vicieux. J'ai pas de développement économique parce que j'ai pas d'énergie parce que j'ai pas de développement économique, et on tourne en rond. Il faut mettre en relation, et c'est pour ça qu'il faudrait l'industrie, le ministère de l'Industrie, le ministère du Développement Rural, et encore le ministère de l'Agriculture. Ou le ministère de l'Agriculture, pour qu'on puisse ensemble réfléchir à des projets intégrés qui ont des solutions, qui ont des finalités, dont on sait qu'on va les mettre Parce qu'il y a un sujet qui a été dit qui est très important, c'est qu'il ne suffit pas d'apporter l'électricité pour qu'il y ait un développement économique derrière. Il y a des prérogatives, il y a des accès au marché, on a vu des cas au Sénégal, en Afrique de l'Est, en Afrique de l'Ouest, où il y avait un producteur qui pouvait produire, un couturier qui peut produire plus de chemises tous les jours, mais il n'a pas accès au marché pour les vendre. Donc finalement, il n'utilise pas l'énergie. Donc il y a beaucoup de choses qui sont hors du contexte du secteur de l'énergie, du ministère de l'énergie, d'Anser, qu'il faudrait réfléchir ensemble. Il faut solutionner les problèmes ensemble. Donc nous, notre approche, notre vision, c'est de développer des mini-réseaux à partir des utilisations productives de l'énergie dans les milieux ruraux. Je pense que c'est la seule façon de le faire. Alors évidemment, Kipai Energy est un super exemple, super et pas super non plus, parce que leur principal off-taker, c'est les miniers. Donc ça ne représente pas toute la RDC, on ne peut pas reproduire ça, on ne peut pas scaler à toute la RDC. Mais je pense qu'il y avait un slide très important aussi qui a été montré, je ne sais pas si c'était en millions de jobs créés, mais clairement le potentiel il est là-bas. Donc voilà, ce sont à mon avis les points très importants. Et nous, les difficultés que nous rencontrons, c'est le financement, les intégrations des productive use dans les projets, dans les subsides. Voilà, pour faire en résumé.
Thank you. Thank you, yeah. That's really, I mean, yeah, the audience agrees with you so much there. You know, I think you put it very well about, very distracting having two voices in your head, your own and somebody else's. So you've talked a lot about the fact that in rural areas, the purchasing power is low, so there's need for solutions for financing. So, you know, banks, MFIs, coming closer to the end customers to help them afford the energy, but also not just energy, and I think this is really crucial conversation, not just energy, but the service that energy is providing, right? And how to get that service, how to afford that. I think you talked about subsidies. I think this is a really, really important discussion, one that is ongoing, and I know this is something that GIA particularly participates in. How do we make equipment cheaper? How do we make the provision of the tools that the rural communities need to develop? How do we make that more affordable, demonstrate that it is possible, and then commercial capital can come in afterwards. And then that access to market, I think, is a real reflection. It doesn't matter if we do rural development, we bring the energy, but they have no market for all these things that they're developing, then what's the point, right? So I think that's really key. And so maybe coming to you, Bodil, maybe you can give us your reflections from Kipe and what you are learning, and maybe a little bit about what is needed to make sure that we can take advantage of these opportunities that are available in rural areas.
Thank you. So my role in Kipai Energy is actually I'm responsible of environmental and social governance. So this panel is very close to my heart. So Kipai started to engage with local communities in the impact area already back in 2017. We started doing, I'm not talking about the hydropower project, somewhere. We started our studies in 2016, as we are obliged to. And we are now continuing our studies. We are updating the studies every second year. Every time there's a development, we update the studies. Now we are updating the studies to international standards. We are following the IFC standards. Just also to stress that the dam project, there is no relocation. There is some economic compensation, just so you know that clearly. But for us, it's been important to also invest in the socio-economic studies, to get the data, to know what is the condition in the impact area. So we have even doing also capacity building for our team to do the studies. That's very important, how to obtain this data. And what are we looking for in these communities? And the Sombre project is in the north of Okatanga, in the previous Katanga province. It's in a sector called Mitwaba. It's no electrification, it's no electricity there. There's also no mining companies there, so you find a very poor population, poor communities. And we know that some people that don't even have a bed. So this is where we start. And some of these communities are getting electricity from Kipai. So how to, as we speak about here, how can they benefit from the electricity when they can't even buy a bed? And the health situation is also quite sort of like difficult. So this is the environment we find ourselves in. This is our impact area. And in the future, when we are producing energy, we will provide these communities with electricity, with prepaid solutions. So that's also what we are developing now, like a benefit sharing program, and how to boost sort of like agribusinesses and how to really help them to benefit the electricity. As we speak about, one thing is to provide, okay, here you have electricity, go ahead, but also when access to market, how to start up small businesses. We find mostly self-subsistence farmers in our impact area. So that's something we are really going to develop and stress on, but already we started, as I said, with studies in 2016, and you come there with your team, you create an expectation. Oh, it's a hydropower project coming here. And now we are 2023, and we are still developing, we are soon ready. So how to keep also the local population, local communities sort of like eager and active and understand the length of the project, because it's been delayed, we had Corona, etc. So that's also something we started also with the CSR projects, to help the community to understand the length, but also to learn the community to know. So we started a few projects. We have one project in one village that we call Tol Malaki. Tol is metal sheets, and Malaki is beans in Swahili. And that we started already in 2018, where Kipai facilitate metal sheets, and we exchange in beans. And this has already boosted agriculture in certain areas. And it's a very easy project, and we are still following it up. We are revising the terms together. We're doing workshops in the village, revising the terms. Very important, and this also gives some sort of skills in management. We have a local committee. So we already have, before like the big social development plan is rolled out and all the benefit sharing, we have already started to have an understanding of the project, and also we are doing local recruitment. That's also part of the plan, to do as much as local recruitment as possible and capacity building, so we can also leave some competence in the area when the dam is finished. I think I can continue.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to make sure we have time for the audience to ask questions, also to participate and give us their views. But just to reflect back on what you're saying here, there was that need for data, hence to do the studies in the first place, to understand the community, to understand what is needed and then where you can participate. And then I also hear a very deep and long engagement. Even before the power arrives, right? You're already engaging with the community. You're already providing some early examples, demonstration of what is possible, and doing that over a long period of time, and supporting the community throughout that deep engagement, right? So supporting them with what they need when they need it. So that's really exciting to hear about this kind of experience. I want to now maybe take some perspectives and questions from the audience. Quick hands already up. So we'll take maybe 3 or 4, and then we'll respond to them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks to all the panelists for the great presentation. Great insight from you. I have a question for you. Mainly to GIAP, either you guys have facilities, especially technical assistance to the private sector when it comes to conduct demand assessments, and also sometimes use that opportunity to understand what are the productive use opportunities, and to do the stakeholders mapping, because that helps in the entire project modeling to anticipate what are going to be the demands for those productive use, and also to know who are the stakeholders, for example, we're going to work with, because I think for the energy utilities like ours, our core business is really to develop energy utilities and operate them, then work with other stakeholders to support on the productive use. And as we speak of the productive use, mainly in rural areas, we should address the energy access affordability, which sometimes becomes a key risk for the private sector to penetrate rural areas. I know there is a lot of initiatives in terms of RDF support, but is there any facility that GIAP is willing to put in place for CAPEX subsidy, which will then address also affordability for the productive use of electricity? Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? You can ask them in any language. Yes, please.
Thank you. My question is asked to that Mr. I don't know his name. You were saying about the local people, but by saying that they haven't a lot of money for paying this electricity. For us, for example, as we are staying in Lualaba, we are living with local community. They are still living close to the mining, but they didn't have electricity. Those mining also, they are looking for the electricity. But we have many potentiality in this area like water. That's if some projects are there, community can have some electricity. Even also they can sell a part of the mining company where those companies they are usually say that they didn't have a lot of energy for doing their own business. So for that moment, what I'm thinking is the study of the study of the area where local people are living and all opportunities they have got. If we are inside, I can notice we are maybe two ATD, as we call it. But when you observe the DRC, you will notice that there are many ATD, but they are not inside. Sometimes when we have meeting like this, we would like to share with the guys who has got the project like this from local community, because we are living in those villages. But many of people here that are living in Kinshasa, but they didn't know exactly what's happened in the local community. So I would like in future to have many community that will help us to share as we find this reality in a really life.
So thank you for your comments. Did you have a question for Mr. Yao?
My question is he say that it's impossible for local community to pay it. But I say it's not very impossible. Sometimes you must have first a good study. Because
Okay,
every day
thank
they are paying for
Thank you.
electricity.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. Okay, thank you. Just one more here, and then we'll go to a round of answering the question.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole. Je voudrais plutôt m'adresser à notre ami là-bas, à l'extrême droite. Vous avez parlé des problèmes des interventions des banques dans ce que vous êtes en train de faire. Où sont les banques? Moi, je ne sais pas si c'est une question, mais je voudrais simplement savoir si vous êtes au courant qu'après les projets PADEM PME, à 100 millions de dollars pour Lubumbashi, pour Goma, Matadi et Kinshasa, en ce qui concerne les micro, petites et moyennes entreprises, le projet que nous avons fait aboutir dans le gouvernement Ilunga Ilukamba, ce sont des subventions que l'on donne aux petites entreprises en favorisant la jeunesse et la femme. Mais maintenant, il y a un autre projet qu'on appelle Transform. Ça, il faut voir ça avec les PME, avec le ministère des PME. Notamment, c'est les PADEM PME qui continuent à piloter ces projets. C'est au-delà d'1 milliard de dollars. Alors là-dedans, c'est toujours dans l'agroalimentaire. Et on va même intervenir auprès des institutions de microcrédit, que vous connaissez certainement. Donc je pense, parce que je suis un peu en train de suivre ça, et ce n'est pas une question, c'est une contribution. Pour ceux qui se posent des questions sur les banques, et ces entreprises, ces banques, ces institutions de microcrédit vont certainement donner des moyens pour que ceux qui vont se lancer dans ces projets de transformation puissent aussi bénéficier notamment de l'électrification de leur... parce que jusqu'aujourd'hui encore, on trouve des boulangeries, des petites boulangeries qui fonctionnent avec du bois. Je viens de voir ça à Matadi, c'est déplorable. C'est une contribution, c'est une question, j'en sais rien. Voilà, merci.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your additional comments and even providing that extra information about what is available. Maybe we just start with GIAP. I'll push this to you, Shanda. What is available for the private sector in terms of TA for assessments around productive use, and also to think about that affordability risk? What facilities are available to support the private sector?
Thank you. So I'll start with on the technology side as far as productive use appliances are concerned. So we have a cross-cutting program that's active in 6 countries that specifically addresses productive use appliance financing. And this is with 2 partners, so CLASP and Nithio. And so this facility provides RBF subsidies for 6 types of technologies. So these are mills, cold storage, so both chest freezers and walk-in, solar water pumps, electric pressure cookers, and fans. So this is already active in 6 countries. DRC is one of the countries. And the subsidies are being provided through an auction window, which recently lapsed, but we will be announcing some of the winners in DRC in the next couple of weeks. But so that is one intervention, and tied to that, there's also a consumer financing facility that the other partner Nithio is working on, that will support companies that are distributing these technologies to be able to provide end user financing in an affordable way that can allow them to acquire these appliances. And beyond that, there is a portion of the facility that provides capacity building grants and to companies that are looking to provide these appliances. And so this is not limited just to the players that are in the productive use space, be it appliance manufacturers and distributors, but also mini-grid developers, anyone whose business model involves getting life-changing technologies and to end users. And then the other, on the TA stakeholder mapping and opportunity identification. So we don't have a cross-cutting solution for this across multiple countries, but what I mentioned in Nigeria, the Energizing Agriculture Program, is an example of how we support the private sector. So our implementation partner, works closely with the mini-grid developers as well as the different ecosystem players to build those business models. And this has shown the need for that very dedicated support that allows that frees up the bandwidth for companies to think about blue sky initiatives that are important but not immediately urgent, because some of these businesses, they need to get connections, they need to get appliances out into the community. So by bringing in this extra capacity to show them who's in the ecosystem, what are the business models, what are the business cases that you should be working on, as well as providing that flexible grant funding to test some of these ideas. So this is what we've been doing in Nigeria for the last 1.5 years. And this is what we as GIAP and the broader alliance want to bring some of this support to the DRC sector to really drive economic development using DRE solutions.
Thank you, Shanda. If I can add, that is the mission here was to come, for us as GIAP, was to come and convene and discuss with you. But we have another mission, which is to think about exactly the kind of facility you are talking about. How can we, as GIAP, support that productive use angle, the demand angle, the rural development angle in DRC? And we are coming to learn, and then hopefully in the next convening, we can talk about the exact facility that will be in place. Before we go for more rounds of questions, a lot of questions about the purchasing power, or not, I guess, commentary about the purchasing power of people in rural areas, the support of microfinance institutions. I wonder if you can reflect a little bit more on that and give us a little bit of, color on what did you mean, by that, the lack of purchasing power. Is that tiered? Is this for specific appliances? Is it for specific interventions? And who have you witnessed in these rural areas? We're hearing that there are programs on microfinance. Are you aware of them? Have you tried to participate in any of this? Just some more of that experience, please.
Ok. Premièrement, pour répondre à monsieur honorable ici présent, vous venez de démontrer justement la nécessité d'avoir des plateformes de communication beaucoup plus importantes que ce qui existe actuellement. Et je ne sais pas si dans ce programme de 1 milliard de dollars de subventions PME, il y a une composante qui parle de l'énergie. C'est bien ça le gros problème qu'on a ici, c'est que tous les financements, même externes, sont parfois, excusez-moi, mais mal réfléchis, mal pensés. Si sur ce 1 milliard de dollars-là, on n'a pas une composante, je ne sais pas, 100 millions, 200 millions, je ne sais pas, je dis comme ça, mais qui pense à l'énergie, à comment est-ce qu'on va donner l'énergie à ces PME pour travailler, pour développer, tout ça, ça va être un échec. Autre exemple, Picagel au lac Tanganyika, je pense, où je suis tombé sur ce projet, a fourni énormément d'équipements, de chambres froides, de moulins, etc. Et des générateurs. On a ça dans chaque ministère, même dans notre ministère de l'énergie. On a la BAD qui finance des chambres froides à travers une agence de l'énergie et qui compte sur la SNEL pour alimenter ici à Kinshasa en triphasé les chambres froides sur les marchés. Alors franchement, voilà, il y a beaucoup de choses qui ne sont pas pensées à l'avance malheureusement, qu'on vient après coup. C'est compliqué après de changer parce que c'est des budgets internationaux, etc. C'est déjà 2 ans de préparation. Il faut vraiment améliorer ça. Il faut que l'agriculture travaille avec l'énergie, qu'il faut travailler avec l'industrie, il faut qu'on travaille avec le ministère des PME. Vous avez rajouté un ministère très important. Où ils sont Voilà, donc ça c'est vraiment, il faut vraiment améliorer ces composantes-là. On ne s'en sortira jamais et on aura beaucoup de fonds comme ça qui seront dépensés sans résultat finalement, ou avec des résultats. Enfin, je veux dire, je passais au Tanganyika justement pour le projet USAID Tanganyika Off-Grid Challenge avec USAID. On a trouvé énormément de dons de ce programme Picagel à l'abandon finalement. On ne sait pas les utiliser. Donc c'est vraiment ça qui est important et j'incite vraiment en serre à créer ce guichet où les opérateurs économiques viennent poser des questions, viennent poser leurs besoins, viennent dire voilà, nous on a un développement, ou même les ministères, c'est pas les développements, même le secteur public peut venir, et c'est vraiment très important. Pour répondre à la question là-bas, si je pense bien, vous parlez du loi là-bas et de Kolwezi, n'est-ce pas? Alors, malheureusement, le marché de l'électricité sur un pays aussi grand, il est complètement différent dans chaque région. On a dans le loi là-bas, on a des prévisions d'arriver effectivement avec des solutions pour la population, mais on a un autre problème, un problème que le Rwanda par exemple vient de solutionner, enfin vient de traverser, c'est l'arrivée du réseau national. Et Kolwezi, on sait bien qu'Ipa Énergie développe énormément d'énergie pour Kolwezi et 100 mégawatts prévus. C'est difficile si les choses ne sont pas bien prévues clairement à l'avance, et par l'ARE, et par tout le monde, et que nous, on doit être au courant de ce que Kipai va faire. Parce que Kipai, je ne sais toujours pas ce qu'il va faire. Je sais qu'il va donner de l'énergie à la ville, mais je ne sais pas combien, je ne sais pas comment. Voilà. Tout ça, ce n'est pas accessible. C'est très difficile pour nous de venir monter un projet de mini-réseau à Kolwezi pour l'instant, parce qu'on n'a pas ces données-là. On a des problèmes de communication. Il faut vraiment voilà, plus communiquer. Alors, les pouvoirs d'achat, évidemment, est meilleur à Kolwezi parce qu'il y a tous ces miniers qui sont présents. Mais on parle de pouvoir d'achat chez des gens qui n'ont quasiment pas de travail, qui vivent de l'agriculture encore de manière très agraire, qui travaillent sans rien, je veux dire. Donc, les problèmes de pouvoir d'achat sont surtout sur ces milieux-là. Effectivement, on a besoin d'accompagnement des microfinances. Et les microfinances, on ne les voit pas aujourd'hui. Ils sont pas, enfin, si on voit IFOD, excusez-moi, mais ils sont manquants.
Thank you. I want to make sure we have a couple more questions. So we need data. We need an aggregated platform for data so we can all understand the full picture of what is happening across the country so that we are able to plan, right? The private sector can plan because all of that is available in one central place and that the purchasing power really can't differ across the country. Sir, you had a question.
Merci, madame, pour la parole que vous m'adressez. Bon, voilà, je voudrais un peu parler de deux choses. La première, c'est que depuis le début de notre atelier, nous avons beaucoup plus parlé des superstructures, des financements. Très bien, et ce sont vraiment de grands débats qui apportent beaucoup des solutions à ce niveau-là. Mais on a oublié une chose. Nous tous ici, nous faisons les affaires. Je suis d'abord dans la microfinance, j'arriverai. Nous faisons les affaires pourquoi? L'électricité, on ne donne pas l'électricité, mais on vend l'électricité, n'est-ce pas? Nous les vendons pour faire des bénéfices. On les vend chez qui? Chez un client, un marché. Malheureusement, hier, aujourd'hui, on ne parle pas du marché. On ne parle pas du marché, c'est qu'on ne le comprend pas. On ne le connaît presque pas. Je crois ici, il était très important, n'est-ce pas, de pouvoir aussi décrire il est qui ces consommateurs d'électricité en milieu rural. Quelle est la cartographie de notre consommateur? Et c'est un élément clé pour bien comprendre comment on doit stimuler, n'est-ce pas, stimuler le marché électrique en RDC. Tant qu'on ne connaît pas ces clients-là, non plus on ne pourra pas les stimuler. Ça, c'est un élément clé. Donc, c'est pourquoi je suis tout à fait d'accord avec la thématique développée par le DP, où il a parlé du marché. Quelle est la politique? Quelles seront la stratégie? Quand on connaîtra ce marché, comment on pourra le pénétrer? Tant qu'on ne connaît pas ça, ça sera très compliqué. Je suis tout à fait d'accord et très content de tous les exemples magnifiques donnés d'autres pays. Mais ces pays-là, ce n'est pas la RDC. Je connais bien le Rwanda, je connais bien le Kenya, je connais bien la Tanzanie, le Zimbabwe, etc. Est-ce que le rural du Kenya est-il le même du Congo? Je pose la question. D'accord. Est-ce que, madame,
of course not.
Voilà,
of course not, very different.
Voilà. Est-ce que vous pouvez quand même me laisser 2 minutes? Au fait, ça, excusez-moi, madame.
Sure. I mean, I would love to come to a question then because I know there are others in the room.
Donner la parole aux gens. Peut-être à la fin de cette table ronde, on pourra peut-être avoir aussi des stratégies. On n'est pas à l'université où les gens doivent parler, on les écoute et puis quand on veut parler, on coupe. Je m'excuse, n'est-ce pas? Laissez-nous parler, qu'on vous dise aussi ce que nous ressentons. À moins que, voilà, je ne sais pas, voilà.
Thank you for that, and thank you for saying that. I appreciate your comment. Of course, we understand that the contexts are very different in different countries. I think we're not here to say you have DRC must do X or must do Y. We want to work in cooperation to learn from examples of where things have worked and where things haven't worked, and to understand how to apply those things to DRC. Hence why we come here to have this conversation and to exchange together. Sir, you had a question?
Hi, everyone. Sorry for English speakers. I'm going to address DRC's public officials. I think we have a member of parliament and someone from the Prime Minister's office. So I'm going to go in French. Je suis Landry Jimpe, je suis distributeur de Solar Home System en RDC. On a beaucoup parlé, donc je vais m'adresser principalement aux officiels. Je suis quelqu'un de la primature et quelqu'un du Parlement. On a beaucoup parlé de pouvoir d'achat et d'affordability des kits. Je pense que la question derrière, c'est le prix d'accès à nos équipements. On est dans un pays où le taux d'accès est de 19% et où il y a une politique du gouvernement d'ajouter 11 points de plus en termes d'électrification d'ici 2025. Quand on regarde tous les pays qui ont réussi à faire ce genre de prouesse, généralement, l'un des facteurs principaux sur lesquels ils ont joué, c'est l'accès aux équipements. Et généralement, c'est la défiscalisation, c'est retirer tout ce qui est droit de taxes et douane sur les équipements d'accès à l'énergie lors de l'importation. Vous allez au Kenya, c'est le cas, vous allez au Sénégal, c'est le cas, vous allez dans tous les pays, en tout cas en Afrique de l'Est, on a résolu la question d'électrification en retirant grandement la taxation sur les équipements d'accès à l'énergie. Vous arrivez en RDC, comme je dis une fois de plus, un pays qui a 80% de taux de personnes qui ne sont pas connectées au réseau. Pour 10 $ d'équipement que vous importez, vous payez 4 $ de droits et taxes. Donc, j'achète un équipement, quand il arrive à Matadi, je paye 4 $. Quand je vais devoir le vendre au client final, j'ajoute de la TVA dessus. Ça veut dire que mécaniquement, sans mettre mes OPEX, le client, déjà le produit, il est techniquement à 17-18 $. Donc, si on veut réellement résoudre la question de l'électrification, on peut faire de très beaux plans stratégiques sur 2025-2030, mais il faut être à un moment donné pragmatique. Je pense que beaucoup de gens ont parlé de l'apport de l'énergie dans le développement économique. Donc, si on réduit la taxation à l'entrée sur les équipements d'accès à l'énergie, c'est un moyen de pouvoir aussi booster le développement économique, parce que les gens qui n'ont pas, parce que si les produits sont trop chers, les gens ne pourront pas avoir accès, et donc du coup le développement économique qu'on attend et qu'on appelle ne pourra pas avoir lieu. Donc c'est peut-être un appel aux policy makers, donc aux personnes qui font les lois, j'entends par là l'honorable qui est là aujourd'hui, si on peut le prendre comme porte-parole, et le conseiller du Premier ministre, de dire sur les questions d'accès à l'énergie, si on veut vraiment pouvoir résoudre les problèmes d'affordability, l'un des éléments majeurs sur lesquels on peut jouer, c'est tout ce qui est droit d'entrée sur les équipements d'accès à l'énergie, comme a pu le faire beaucoup de nos voisins qui ont réussi à résoudre le problème.
Thank you for that. So a commentary there on one of the potential ways that we can address the affordability challenge by bringing down the cost of products that are coming in, and a call to action, I guess, to policymakers in the room. I wonder if there's any questions or comments, or if Prashant and Benil, you want to reflect on anything that has been said in the room.
No, thank you. Definitely, I mean, it's, as I said, it's not and or, right? One of the things which is required as a step, which we also took, was there is different kind of even investments which are required. Yes, in the conversation, there is more private in this room, there's more private stakeholders which are available. And that's why I think some people were talking about, and that is what you are also kind of looking at, right? Demand. And how do we understand the demand? We can't expect everything from a private sector. I mean, Selco also, when it was an enterprise, it was expected to do everything. We were trying to do financing, trying to train financiers on just understanding how to finance for solar livelihoods or solar products, just a solar lighting system, because that was not understood by financiers. And I'm not saying that they didn't take a step to understand that. It was just not, the awareness was not there. Similarly, right now, from the market point of view, what Sir was saying before, I mean, even in the end user community, yes, they can't pay today. We have similar communities in India. I have seen similar communities when we are working in Tanzania or Ethiopia. We can't expect end users to pay for even energy access to start with, unless until it's a booming economy, there is a market, there is some kind of cash flows which are moving both ways. So how can we, and what is the role of philanthropy, right? I mean, most of the time, these are the kind of questions which come again and again. There is the role of private sector investment, there is role of philanthropies also, and then there is role in which government can play, creating that enabling factor for all the investments to come in. I mean, we generally say philanthropies have to kind of look at these immature or yet to mature ecosystems. Just a lot of demonstrations on ground, even the end users, to at least get them to a point where there is some cash flows moving in. Just some grants coming in for the enterprises also to kind of do that initial R&D, understand and assess the demand. Yes, the manufacturing can't happen today. We talk about how can we work on low-cost technologies, how we can make sure that the cost of technologies come down. What we have seen is let's bring the best technology available and work on a financial model which matches the cash flow of the end users. And for that to happen, we need to understand those ecosystem pillars, which are technology, both from efficient manufacturing or appliances, to clean energy enterprises who are providing access, doing assessment, auditing, right system designing, implementation, and after-sales services, to forward-backward linkages, which are pro-community. I mean, one of the challenges which we have also faced is, not in India, but when we work outside India, is where are pro-community people or organization who takes the role of community members through development and then also trains them on best agriculture practices, especially now with the changing climatic condition, how they can look at market, how they can look at better yield. And I'm not talking about yield from the perspective of put more fertilizers, more seeds, and then let's grow more and more and then export it, but also from food security point of view and everything. So when we look at forward-backward linkages, training end users on even understanding their demand and how they can articulate that to financial institutions, both for enterprises, both for end users, to training institutes. And when I'm saying training and capacity building, it's both ways. It's for enterprises to understand, articulate, work on that, and also know the technical know-how to provide more and more complex system and maintain that, and also capacity building of end users. Once they get this technology, what to do with it, how to maintain it, how to work with it best. All these learnings together, articulating it well for the policy. I mean, that is the whole piece, and it has to work together. And yes, we can't do it together. It has to be a combination of people who does that. Yeah.
Thank you. I wonder if Banil has some reflections.
Yeah, well, I was reflecting about to understand the impact area, like consumers or the market. And in KPI, we are, as said, doing our socioeconomic studies, and even in our impact area, we find very different communities with very different needs. So when doing different programs, you have to also tailor it to the local community. What is the luggage? What is the history here? And tailor your project for how to benefit. Electricity can be different in this village than in a village 500 kilometers, even 50 kilometers away. So you need to be aware that the needs and how to the local community can understand the project is quite different. And that's what we are working quite hard in KIPAI to really know our impact area through doing our socioeconomic studies, not only thinking that there is no relocation, there is nothing going on, which I heard some years ago, not in Congo.
Thank you for that. So you're directly responding to that challenge of understanding your market and understanding the consumer and mapping that out. Thank you. If there's one more burning question, otherwise I know it's almost time for us to close. So I'll open for one more burning question, and then I'll give my panelists the last word. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your great presentations. My name is Yongwa. I just wanted to contribute something on clarifying when we talk about the purchasing power of people. You know, in the DRC context, first of all, most of households are very enterprising. If they can survive, I can tell you, it's thanks to their entrepreneurial spirit. Because specifically in the rural settings and peri-urban settings, there are not so many people who are paid on payroll, like on the monthly basis like it is in the urban areas. So most of these households, be it in agriculture, they are practicing agri for subsistence, but also agri-business, although at the low scale. So, and this is what is helping these households even to pay for school fees for their children, to cover medical costs and all those kind of stuff. So they are very enterprising household. But one of the factors is that the breadwinners, when they want to cover, for example, the needs and the wants of all family members at the household level, they are unable. Although they are getting money, they are not able to cover all other needs and wants of all family members. And that's where we talk about the purchasing power. It doesn't mean that people don't have money. No, they have money, but they're not able to cover all the needs and wants of all the family members. But consider also the logistics and the poor road infrastructures. Although they are enterprising, they are doing their level best, but they're not supported. You know, for you to get the product from one province to the other province, from one district to the other district, you have a lot of challenges here. You know, so doing business in our country is not that easy. So energy for productive use will come to support, even if we can start like with the segment of a local-based entrepreneurs. They are there with the solutions. And if we can back up these people with some subsidies, and I do recommend here if GAP can come with something innovative from 20, 30 to 50%, because the acquisition capacity of these modern energy solutions, that is a main barrier for most of these entrepreneurs at the local level. So logistical challenges, the family size, but also on top of that, taxes. Apart from the taxes at the entry level, you have a lot of taxes with our decentralization policy, the central level taxes, you have the provincial level taxes, district level taxes, sectors level taxes, village level taxes. By the time you start flourishing, showing some progress, all these people will come and say, yeah, now he's getting money, he's creating wealth, let us block him. So this is what is happening. You don't need to hide it. If we are hiding, then you don't get any solution to move forward.
Thank you so much, Yongwa. That's a really succinct, going back to the question of purchasing power. And not that people don't have money, it's just that the needs are above the amount of income that they're getting. And so we need to support the enterprising households, businesses, to be able to take advantage of this new energy. So final remarks from our panelists. I'll ask you to keep it really short, 30 seconds. What's the one thing you want to leave as a parting shot to this convening? We can start with you. Yeah.
Yes, again, à nouveau, encore une fois, je pense qu'il y a une nécessité de fédérer beaucoup plus d'acteurs bénéficiaires de l'énergie, de l'électricité, beaucoup plus que seulement le secteur de l'énergie dans lequel nous sommes dans cette salle, et de partager beaucoup plus d'informations. Et voilà, il y a beaucoup de choses à dire. Maintenant, ce que mon collègue a dit là-bas sur la volonté du gouvernement, évidemment, il y a beaucoup de choses à faire, à montrer que le gouvernement veut vraiment mettre en œuvre. Voilà, too much things to say, so I already said it.
Thank you for that. Shianda?
I'll just say one thing really, is just top down and bottom up. Let's start bottom up by testing what works, localizing it, contextualizing it, and at the same time, bring the top-down policy changes and macro economic factors that can really transform the country. So let's think about the communities, the last-mile communities through the top-down, but bring all that together in the long term through a high-level top-down approach that will bring everyone together.
Thank you so much, Prashant.
Sure. Again, all the solutions get built with the local context and the learning, and then what is the capacity. Definitely innovating, building systems for scale, and then amplifying. I mean, if we can look at those three pillars with the help and understanding of the local context, with making sure that the stakeholders from this country are able to do that as much as possible. I think we are just the enablers who are coming here and then trying to design programs which help learning both ways. Because just from our experience of working in different countries, we are taking so much back to our programs in India, which is helping communities there. So poverty doesn't look at boundaries, doesn't look at countries and everything. I mean, everyone faces the same thing. So we are just trying to kind of understand how we can design these programs and learn both ways together.
Thank you for that.
Okay, representing a Congolese energy company, I believe that the Congolese private energy sector is also a driving force for local development in DRC. Together with all the good partners that we, for instance, see on this conference, we have to work together. And I believe in bottom-up, and also important that the local communities, they need to understand the project they're receiving. That's super important. If they don't understand it,
Super. And then maybe more of them should be at this convening as well, representative of the end consumers. It remains for me to say thank you so much to my panelists. Thank you so much for all your very useful commentary and questions. And yeah, we're open to discuss more, I think, outside after the drinks. Thank you so much.